All right, you've been listening to Orange County officials giving an update on the response and soon to be the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, and we'll continue to monitor the remainder of it, and we'll let you know of anything major that comes out of it. Yeah, just a few takeaways from that. We have about 140,000 folks, according to Duke Energy, without power right now. So that's about 25%, about a quarter of their customers as we speak. And a customer, mind you, it could be one person, could be 4 people, 6 people in a home. Correct. A customer's just a point of billing, if you will. So that could be many more than that. Right. And then we can't say this enough. Also coming from Sheriff Mina, stay indoors, folks. Stay sheltered. Get away from that standing water. Right. They've had a lot of well-being calls, as you can expect in a situation like this. But they seem to have things under control. That's kind of the overall sentiment takeaway that we're having from Orange County. And of course, coming up at 1:30, Brevard County, they're going to be holding their press conference as well to update us on the shelter operations and the conditions they have in Brevard County. Very good. Let's continue on now. About 6 minutes after 12, there's Greg Pallone once again. He's been in Osceola County. He watched quite the feat. It took 2 large SUVs to pull a large SUV out of some deep water. What's the latest?
Yeah, Eric, also we've got some deep water for you. This is on North Central here in Kissimmee, and it has been like this for hours now. We still have a submerged vehicle over there. We were told by a resident it has been there since about 4 a.m. One of the other submerged vehicles was just pulled out by a tow truck just about 15 minutes or so ago. But Eric, as you had alluded to, the big drama taking place here happened within the last hour. We're going to show you some video of that. There was a driver of an SUV, a big 4-wheel SUV, trying to navigate the waters here, for some reason deciding to try and go over some grass here at the Polo Run apartment homes, got stuck and then started floating in the water. Hit the driver and a passenger in there for quite some time. The Kissimmee Police Department, some officers showed up in a boat and told them to get out of there for just the danger of potentially drowning. That's when a couple of other high-profile 4x4s showed up with their towing winches and some really strong rope, and took an effort, but was able to pull that vehicle out. And no injuries, but it certainly was entertaining for the residents here at Polo Run as they were watching this unfold. The rain continues out here in Kissimmee along North Central, so these floodwaters are not going to recede anytime soon. This is not navigable. We have seen some 4x4s going through here, but again, not wise, because you just don't know what is underneath this water along the road here. But again, we're continuing to see these the rain bands come in. The floodwater's not receding, so it's going to be like this out here for quite some time. Live in Kissimmee, Greg Pallone, Spectrum News 13. We've been watching that for the last few hours, wondering how that's going to pan out. We hadn't seen the beginning part of that SUV going in the water, actually seeing it get stuck, and then what Greg was talking about, actually seeing it drive into the water and then floating on water. That's what we say, the weight of water in a flood situation, very, very heavy. Indeed, and our team coverage continues right now at 12:08. We have, I believe, Rebecca Turco. Rebecca is joining us now live from Kissimmee, so you're at quite the scene there, Rebecca. What has happened since we saw you, last hour?
Yeah, well, a lot's happened in the last hour, and some good news for folks here. Yes, it's still raining, but about an hour ago, the floodwater was up to my ankles, and now it's just kind of barely touching my boots here. So that's the good news here. A lot of the water has receded. We're here on Main Street, where a couple blocks have been blocked off to traffic, and we can see actually that it looks like power still remains out, because over at the intersection there, the traffic lights still remain out at this point. We have been seeing some cars kind of making their way through, some 4x4s, but it sounds like we're dealing with a different situation than Greg is dealing with right now, because things have gotten better on our end. Several hours ago, though, it was a different picture. We were still dealing with floodwaters in this area, to the point where rescue boats actually had to make their way around in the area. So the National Guard was here, as well as first responders. They were in 4x4s, and even an airboat rescuing folks from flooded areas from their homes. The Osceola County Sheriff tells us they rescued dozens and dozens of people and sent them to area shelters based on their needs. So folks with pets, they sent them to pet shelters. Folks with medical needs, they sent them to those specific shelters, etc. And I spoke with one woman a little bit earlier this morning. She was saying she's lived here in Kissimmee some 20 years, so she's had her share of hurricanes, certainly. She has never dealt with flooding like this, and her daughter came to pick her up after she was rescued by first responders. She said they came by in a Jeep-type truck. They rescued her. They brought her to this area on Main Street to wrap. She says her daughter lives a little bit further in Kissimmee. She didn't deal with any flooding, so it really just varies depending on where you are in Osceola County. Back to you guys.
Rebecca, thank you very much. It's quite a situation just all over Central Florida, and
to see the waters recede since over the last hour or so, that's encouraging. So I always like to see that glimmer of hope here.
It is nice to see that, and as the storm continues to spiral out of the way, we can hopefully get rid of the worst soon for everybody and enjoy the sunshine that's coming in the next few days. And I think that's where we're headed to right now at 12:11. Let's not break with tradition, shall we? It's weather on the one's time.
Yeah, thank you, Allison and Eric. And yeah, we will get some sunshine back in here, but we do have a few of those bands that we're continuing to deal with. Although Maureen and I have been looking at some of the advisories, the alerts that are out there. We've actually got a few that are expiring here very soon, which is encouraging. We'll just have to see if they get extended at all.
Right. We still have the wind. I've heard from people saying Winter Springs, Oviedo, it's still pretty loud outside. The winds are still pretty strong. The rain is still occurring in some areas, and this is the scene in Cocoa Beach.
Yeah, this is our Bogan Munz and Munz camera at Cocoa Beach Shepherd Park. Some people out there kind of checking things out, and make sure you keep yourself safe. Wait until everything has completely started to die down before you go and really assess what's going on in your area. You can still see some of those dark clouds, and every now and then the camera is shaking there in Cocoa Beach, and I want to show you why. As we look at some of the wind gusts at this time, we still have a gust in the last hour of 60 at Daytona Beach, 54 in Sanford, 40 in Melbourne. You can see those numbers starting to back off as you head a little more toward the west, but we've still got some areas dealing with tropical storm force winds, and that's going to continue to be the case for the next few hours.
But the flood threat is going to be lessening. We still have a long way to go until the water recedes, but those flashing boxes we've seen on Clystron 13 all morning long, this last one is going to come off the board at 12:15. That's another advisory for St. Johns County off to the north. So putting Clystron 13 in motion as Tropical Storm Ian pulls away, 70-mile-per-hour winds as it exits into the Atlantic. We still have that effect on the northern side that is pushing these bands back onto land. And embedded, we have these gusty squalls, we have heavy rainfall, and these are places that have already seen a lot of heavy rain. When we look out over the Atlantic, still some returns coming in of orange, of red embedded. So we're not done with the rain yet, and some of those bands wrapping around the total. The amounts are lighter compared to earlier, but seeing some yellow start to show up a little bit in Orange County, perhaps moving by Maitland, Winter Park, over towards Baldwin Park in the direction of UCF Mallory. So rain is ongoing for some areas, but the trend will be tapering for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. As we check out our futurecast, this is 3 o'clock, and we do still have some of those bands that are going to be wrapping around Ian as it continues to slowly move away from us. So here's the timing. We've got areas in eastern Marion County down into Seminole and Orange County, and areas to the east dealing with some of that rainfall through the afternoon. And then it looks like more Brevard County, Volusia, up into Flagler County around 4 o'clock, and that's going to continue through those areas for a few hours as we head into the evening. Still some of that wraparound moisture bringing in some rain, continuing as we head towards sunset and through about 9-10 o'clock. But notice by 11 o'clock, a lot of that rain has started to come to an end. So here's a check of the impacts that we're still going to be dealing with today. Tropical storm winds, bands of rain moving around that center of circulation tonight. The rain starts to move out, winds decrease. Tomorrow, skies clearing, and we finally start to dry out. Allison and Eric.
All right, ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Time now 12:14, and you know there's a lot of damage statewide following Ian's wrath. And we do want to go to Spectrum News 13's Fallon Silcox. Now, Fallon is joining us live in Hillsborough County with storm damage assessment. So, Fallon, the first time I've gotten to speak with you this morning, good morning to you, or good afternoon, rather. Tell us what's going on. What are you seeing?
Well, check it out here. We want to show you a live look. This tree here in this home in Valrico just crashed right through the roof of this home. And I just spoke with the people who live in this house. They tell me they're actually renting this home. They knew this tree was an issue. They said it's about 40 years old. They contacted the company that owns this house and told them they needed to come and get this tree trimmed, get it taken care of before this storm came through. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And exactly what they feared would happen did. And you can see these huge limbs of this oak tree crashed onto their roof, went through their home, also on their boat outside of their home. Now, luckily, everyone inside of the house was okay. No one was injured. They said they were sitting there. They had just hooked up their generator yesterday evening. They were eating dinner, going to try to watch a little TV and just kind of rest and relax a little, because of course it'd been a stressful day. And they say all of a sudden, first they heard that limb crash down onto the boat, and it was just a matter of minutes before the other limb came crashing right through the roof into their living room where they were all sitting and eating. Once again, though, no injuries. So they are feeling extremely grateful today that no one was hurt. A lot of water did get into their house, so they did have some flooding issues. A lot of their personal items, their furniture, of course, ruined, but luckily everyone okay. So far as we've been driving around eastern Hillsborough County today, we've seen some tree limbs down, things like that, but this is definitely the worst damage. So far, this is the only home that we have seen that is actually damaged, other than, say, maybe a screened-in lanai or something like that. But once again, just want to reiterate, everyone inside that house okay. So that is, of course, the best case scenario here. I'll send it back to you now.
All right, Fallon, great reporting. And yeah, from that damage to now what? Power outages. So we do want to take a look at the state of Central Florida's electric grid. And right now, many folks are without power.
Yeah, it's in the millions across the state. Spectrum News 13's Molly Durig is having a deep dive into the power grid here in Central Florida specifically, because you and I know our power has been out for several hours now, and you know, we're going through this right along with everybody else. What are you knowing?
That's right, Eric and Allison. Right now, more than 500,000 customers are without power in Central Florida. The latest for this hour, more than 546,000 customers without power from Duke. And as you've wisely pointed out before, Eric, that number is a lot larger, the real number of people without power, since customers, there's more than just one person usually with that. So moving on to Florida Power and Light, which serves only Brevard, Flagler, Seminole, and Volusia counties. Out of the nearly 1.2 million customers without power there, our counties, more than 223,000 people in our counties without power right now. OUC, more than 78,000 customers without power, with OUC covering parts of Orlando and St. Cloud, and then SACO, which serves Lake, Marion, and Sumter County. More than 9,000 people in our counties without power right now. So all in all, again, more than 651,000 people without power in Central Florida right now. And as a reminder, those utility crews also need to ensure they can be safe before dispatching to restore service. Eric.
Yeah, and Molly, it's important to note that those numbers are changing constantly. I mean, the numbers that you have are going to be much, much different in the next 5 minutes than they were changing while you were reading them. So this is an evolving situation. And so make sure you keep us posted on the number of outages, because, you know, it's going to be some time before the power companies can get into those hardest hit areas and get the electricity back on.
Yeah, and we've seen more people throughout the morning losing power.
Unfortunately. Definitely. Okay, Molly, thank you very much. Good report on that. Thanks.
You got it. All right. Well, a woman, as you can see, or in this video here, we are looking at video here in downtown Orlando, trying to get some perspective. So this is basically, we're going to sum it up. Do not do this, folks. No judgment, but do not do this. Right, Eric? The video we're looking at from downtown Orlando.
She is the definition of somebody living in a dangerous situation right there. We don't know what she was trying to get to.
Do we know what road this is in downtown Orlando?
But the water was up to her chest, and the weight of that water, well, we don't even want to think about what could have happened. But look at this. This is video from above showing a flooded street, and another example of what not to do. Driving through water-covered streets, because that person, for all they know, that water, the road could have been washed out underneath it. They could have been in a very precarious situation, just like we saw with what Greg Pallone was showing us in Osceola County.
And it just takes a moment for your car to stall, and then you're stuck there, and you have a whole mess for the rest of the day, and then all that. So things not to do. We just thought we'd share that with you here on Spectrum News. So we do want to, it's 12:21, check in with our team of certified meteorologists for a check here of your weather. Guys, what's the latest?
Thanks, Allison and Eric. And Maureen and I are just talking about there. We're watching that video. We know that you're trying to get yourself to safety, and that might mean that you have to go through the waters. But we do have some safety tips that we're going to be bringing you here very soon on why that is extremely dangerous. But a quick check of Klystron 13 at this point.
Yeah, so we'll take you to the radar to show you that we are not done with the rain yet. As we roll this into motion, you'll be able to see those bands still pivoting on shore in northern parts of Flagler County and Volusia County, getting in on that rain. So this continues to wrap around Ian. While the amounts are not as heavy as earlier, the ground saturated. It won't take much for any flooding to occur. Now, when we look at the flooding that we've been dealing with. We say this all the time when it comes to flood threats. We say, turn around, don't drown, and this is why. And the pictures and video that are coming in illustrate the danger. You never want to go through water when you don't know how deep it is. If you see a barrier, that's there for a reason. Or if you see water and you don't know how deep it is, you don't want to go through it. The expression is, turn around, don't drown, find another way, but we don't want you to be out in the roads at all at this time. The power of water is just so significant. Just 6 inches of water can sweep a person away. If you have an SUV and you think, oh, my car's big enough, I can get through it, well, it only takes 12 inches for that to occur, and 18 inches of moving water, a large vehicle can get swept away. So that's why we say turn around, don't drown. And you wouldn't want to get into that water anyways, Mallory, because you don't know what's in it.
Yeah, we've got the potential for the roadway underneath you to be completely washed out. You also have power lines that could have come down that are still hot. You don't want to get electrocuted. And there's also objects and creatures lurking in those waters. I don't know about you. I don't want to come across a snake, that's for sure. But you also have alligators that are out there and just hazardous things that could be just going through those waters. And if you can't see it, you don't know if it's coming. So just stay safe until we can get some of these waters to recede. Now, Ian has moved out over the Atlantic, might intensify as it pulls away from us out over those warmer waters, but we're not concerned with that. We're dealing with the impacts now. They are going to be lessening throughout the rest of today. In fact, as we look at our wind forecast here, this is 4 o'clock, and we still have the potential for those tropical storm force wind gusts through the afternoon and into the evening hours. This is 7 o'clock, and where you see that yellow near the Orlando metro and off to the northeast, there's still the possibility for tropical storm force winds, but by midnight and especially into our Friday, we are diminishing those winds as well as the rainfall. You could see that chance really dropping later on today. By tomorrow, it's going to get down to 0, and then especially as we head into the weekend. In fact, as we look at our extended forecast, by Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we have taken that rain completely out of the forecast. It's going to be a great time to rest up, clean up, whatever you need to do to recover from Ian.
All right, Mallory and Mo, thank you. And one more quick note about walking through flooding. If you have open sores from a cut or something like that, you never know what is going to get into that. Could make that worse. The latest levels at Little Wekiva beginning to slow, thankfully, depending on how much rainfall, though, the river receives. It's possible we could see a rapid rise again.
Yeah, as that continues today, the rain. So I want to go to Spectrum News 13's Asher Wildman joining us live in Seminole County. Asher, I know you have a lot to talk about. Show us what you're seeing.
There is a lot to go over here in the Springs Oak community located in Altamont Springs. Let's start with what's happening behind me. Obviously, you can see a lot of water. This is Little Wekiva River Road. Unfortunately, it is now part of the Little Wekiva River, which is located behind several of these homes here that are located behind me. Now, I also want my cameraman Ruben to zoom in. You can see there's an orange stake diagonally behind me. First off, these indicators with the red lights, just so you know, too, this is just so people know where the road ends. But as for those stakes, those are 4-foot tall stakes indicating where the driveways for these homes are. Because what has happened is the Seminole County Sheriff's Office has come in with a boat, driving up that boat to people's front doors, yelling out loud, knocking on garage doors to see if anybody is in those homes. They have rescued several families already this morning and early afternoon, and we caught up with somebody who was rescued.
It's extremely terrible out there. There's a river back there, Little Wekiva River. It completely flooded back there. Same to the front. It went all up in the garage, in our rooms, everywhere.
Earlier, I gave the analogy about being at a deli counter waiting for your number to be called. Well, that's what this water is now doing. It's waiting for its turn to get out of here. And just to give you some ideas of how much water we're seeing with the Little Wekiva River. On a normal day, 836 million pounds of water go through the river. Today, 4.4 billion. And perhaps the most demoralizing part about all this as the rain continues is, as you can see right here, water continues to come downhill here on Little Wekiva Road. Reporting live in Altamont Springs, Asher Wildman for Spectrum News.
All right, folks, of course, we will be with you all day long as we continue to assess Ian's impact right here and across the state.
And as we head to break, you're looking at the express exit ramp from I-4 West at Ivanhoe. It is flooded, a car stuck. We'll be back.
If you're caring and compassionate and want to make a difference in people's lives, we want you on our Melbourne Terrace team.
It's great to work for a team where staff morale is a top priority and there are many opportunities for career advancement. I started as a floor nurse 9 years ago, and now I'm the Director of Nursing at Melbourne Terrace.
If you are excited by competitive wages, sign-on bonuses, low patient-to-staff ratios, and opportunities for advancement, call Melbourne Terrace today.
Admiral wash machine made by Whirlpool, $337. Appliance Direct, now 9 Central Florida locations. 3.5 cubic foot washer, $337 with classic white porcelain tub. And dual action agitator, $337. Brand new washer, $337. Brand new in the box. Thank you.
Men, want to feel younger, stronger, leaner? You don't have to slow down after 40. Nugenix Total T is our most powerful man-boosting formula ever. Text SEEK to 321321 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. That's SEEK to 321321.
Area Rug Gallery has the rug that you've been dreaming about. We're Brevard's only area rug store with rooms and rooms of rugs of all shapes and sizes in stock. And new designs arriving weekly. We also have designers ready to help you find the perfect rug that matches your style and budget. We can even customize your very own rug. From traditional to tropical and everything in between, we have an area rug for you at a price you can only dream. Area Rug Gallery.
Ian has spiraled its way across the Sunshine State, the impacts being felt now and for quite a while, and now the focus shifts to safety.
Certainly flooding is a big issue right now.
You need to stay off the roads. You can never drive through flooded water.
Right now, continuing team coverage from the Spectrum News 13 weather experts who are here to keep you informed no matter where you live in Central Florida.
And 12:30 is the time as our live in-depth team coverage of Tropical Storm Ian now continues. Glad you're with us. I'm Eric Levy.
And I'm Allison Walker. So yeah, I know the worst of the storm that may have passed. Okay, so that's good. That's a good news. But dangerous conditions, they remain right here all across Central Florida.
And that is front and center this afternoon. And we want to get to our weather experts at exactly 12:31 right now to find out the latest coordinates. They're plotting the storm. There is the matching, matching fashion. It's Mallory and Mo. Good afternoon to you both.
Hi, Eric and Allison. It's been busy here in the Weather Center, although things are starting to quiet down on the radar compared to, say, 6-12 hours ago. Yeah. The threats remain, especially with the wind.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually seeing still some pretty strong wind gusts across the area, and because of that, we do still have a tropical storm warning that is in effect. This is for Flagler, Volusia Lake, Seminole, Orange, Brevard, and Osceola County until we can get those wind gusts over 40 miles per hour out of here. And it looks like heading into tonight, they will start to diminish. But check of the numbers at this point. We're still seeing gusts over 60 miles per hour in Daytona Beach, over 50 in Sanford. We have a 40-mile-an-hour wind gust in the last hour in Melbourne, 38 in Orlando. And the more west you go, those numbers are starting to drop. But we also have a rain issue still that we're dealing with as well.
Right. And it has shifted towards Volusia and Flagler counties throughout the morning. We've been covering a lot of flash flood warnings, and our flash flood emergencies have since been discontinued. The one alert we have now, pause this to show you the latest data. We do have a flash flood warning, which is something to take seriously. It means to stay off the roads. It goes till 3:15 because of these rainfall rates in places like Flagler Beach and Palm Coast. We'll, of course, let you know if any other warnings do get added to that. But in the meantime, some gusty winds coming down the I-4 corridor on the backside of Ian.
All right, thank you very much to Mallory and Maureen.
Yeah, so at 12:32, Ian's path through Central Florida, as we know, has left behind a path of destruction and dangerous flooding, and folks are finding out more and more as they navigate throughout the day.
And Allison, it is bad enough that President Joe Biden approved a disaster declaration for our state. Federal aid now available to areas impacted by the storm. FEMA will make assessments on damage, and that could determine additional areas that need help.
At the state's Emergency Operations Center, Governor Ron DeSantis provided an update, and that was this morning. And he says the water levels in some areas could be considered a 500-year flood event.
Wow.
But people should just understand this storm is having broad impacts across the state, and some of the flooding you're going to see in areas hundreds of miles from where this made landfall are going to set records.
We have, of course, Spectrum News 13 team coverage. Reporters fanned out across the state from Tallahassee to, the coastline and areas in between. Osceola County, of course, included in that. We want to start right now with a look at the roads and get a quick road check right now.
Yeah, let's head over to real-time traffic expert Jerry Hume. So, Jerry, what roadway, what interchange do you have your eye on right now?
Well, we're looking first here at I-95 here and I-4. This is Daytona Beach, Volusia County. We're looking at some flooded ramps here between 95, I-4 and International Speedway Boulevard. Take a look. Some of these vehicles going through the standing water. You don't want to do that because your car could stall out. We've seen that happen. You can see it down here. This is the Ivanhoe Boulevard ramp from I-4 West Express lanes. That vehicle's been stuck there for quite some time as waters have kind of overcome that ramp right now. So best bet stay home for the time being as we're dealing with those high waters. This is one of the ramps we're seeing where there's some impact. This is the I-4 East ramp to the beach line, 528. A right lane is blocked for that ramp right now. Been watching the express lanes. They've been blocked here because of some of the waters, but it looks like vehicles are now back on them. They're dried out, so that is some good news out there. Now, the turnpike still blocked, according to FHP, between State Road 528, Orange Blossom Trail, and the 408 because of some flooding waters here on the turnpike near I-4. I'm going to take you over here to State Road 520. Near the beach line, we do have some flooded waters as well, blocking both directions of the 520. We showed you this, but want to show you on the map because all these icons indicate alerts of the ramps that are blocked here at 95 and I-4 and International Speedway Boulevard in Daytona Beach. Taking you back down to Orange County now and Orlando International Airport. The roads into the airport blocked right now. No flights taking off today, but Jeff Fuqua Boulevard along with Heitzman Boulevard, Cargo Road, Bear Road, they're all blocked because of some flooded waters in that area. We'll continue to track any of the major issues on the roadways coming up, but for now we'll turn it back to Allison and Eric.
All right, Jerry, thank you.
Jerry, thank you. Yeah, so Fort Myers, that was one of the hardest places hit by Hurricane Ian yesterday, and more than 96% of the city, boom, without power. So Spectrum News 13's, Jason Lanning is in Fort Myers, and he brings you everything you need to know. Listen.
Downtown Fort Myers is an absolute mess today. Debris is strewn everywhere. You can see behind us still some standing water left behind from that big storm surge we saw during Hurricane Ian's landfall yesterday. We want to give you a quick walking tour of just this one single intersection we're set up at here in downtown Fort Myers. Check this out. This looks like a big concrete block. Well, no, this is actually a floating dock. It broke free way down the street at a marina down there, and pieces of it are just littered all through the downtown area. This particular one floated to this spot, and then as the surge water receded, this is where it came to rest. If we get closer up to the intersection here, you can see just big piles of debris that was pushed up by the surge and the winds from Hurricane Ian. As we walk kind of out into this intersection here, you get a good feel for what most of these streets look like today here in Fort Myers. Just tree covered, limbs, branches, full trees. We have power lines down, street signs down. So obviously some of these streets are impassable. Many of them very dangerous, even for the folks that are now out and about trying to get a peek of what the hurricane left behind. If we pan over to the left, well, the damage just continues. Big uprooted trees, even some tangled power lines up there. Now, a lot of this was due to this hurricane's winds, but also we've been talking about that big storm surge. This video shot by Raina Holt. She rode the storm out from an office building right at this intersection. 4 feet of wind-driven storm surge dumping into the northern part of downtown Fort Myers. It was just an incredible and damaging sight, and obviously the surge causing big problems, not just for the power, but also now no running water here in this section of downtown Fort Myers. Now, of course, this is just day one of the recovery. Keep that in mind. We are several weeks, if not months, away from downtown Fort Myers looking anything like it did before this storm, and just getting to this area for emergency crews will be challenging, as many of the roads dumping into downtown look like the one behind us. They are heavily covered with trees, downed limbs, and a lot of debris. We're on scene in Fort Myers. Jason Lanning, Spectrum News.
Neighbors in Brevard County are being asked to limit their water usage.
Yeah, Allison, we have been seeing all morning how bad flooding is in different parts of our state, and as the rain continues from now Tropical Storm Ian, utilities in Brevard County asking folks to reduce that water usage, especially when it comes to flushing toilets, which may not be the easiest thing, also doing laundry and taking the longer showers. They say this will help reduce the chances of backups into homes in in the streets and river. Emergency management from Brevard County set to hold a news conference coming up at around now on Facebook Live. That's the source we're going to be getting it from. No matter what the source is, we hope to have it for you and turn it around at least and let you hear the important information that matters to you.
We have our producers monitoring that as we speak. All right, so floodwaters, they forced the rescue of dozens of nursing home residents. This is in Orange County, and this happened this morning.
Yeah, Orange County Fire Rescue, Allison, told us that they had to rescue about 100 people at Avante in Orlando, just off North Cimarron, just after the flooding poured into the facility, not just onto the property, into the facility. A lot of those residents were taken to shelters, but some who have certain medical conditions had to go to the hospital. First responders said the facility was prepared for the storm. The water just came in too fast. Orange County Fire Rescue says none of the patients, this is certainly good news, had any injuries during the flooding or the rescue operation. The best news possible.
And remember, folks, you, of course, can count on us to bring you the latest updates throughout the storm. And we're bringing you live coverage on air, as you know, and we're also constantly updating our app. And there you'll be able to see some key info from local leaders. We're talking closures, everything you need to know right now. So anyone can stream Spectrum News 13 for free. You just have to use the Spectrum News app.
And a lot of people probably have the app and are watching us right now because if they don't have power, they don't have access to their cable.
Yes.
So they are probably watching us online, which we certainly appreciate because we're going to stay with you on TV and with a live stream and with Weather on the Ones every 10 minutes. We're not breaking with tradition. And also that's something you can get when you go with the Spectrum News app. So let's head over to the Weather Center, get the latest on Tropical Storm Ian, part of our in-depth team coverage. Mo and Mal, take it away.
Thank you, Eric and Allison. Good afternoon, 1241, ongoing rain, ongoing wind, and also ongoing pictures coming into the Weather Center. It's hard to keep up with them because so many people are seeing damage.
And we really do appreciate those reports from where you are. Keep yourself safe. We are getting through this. It's been several hours, of course, and I know that we're getting images like this from Sophia in the Longwood area where we've got quite a bit of standing water there. And Maureen and I have been talking about some of the safety things to consider during flood issues, those floodwaters you don't want to go into. We'll be bringing you more in-depth information on that coming up at 51 past the hour. But I want to talk about those floodwaters because it's not just what we've seen with afternoon storms. This is numbers that I definitely haven't seen since I've been here. And I've heard that from a lot of people with area lakes and rivers that are flooding quite a bit right now. So Union Park, we have gotten a total up over 16 inches, close to 17, over 15 for Campbell. New Smyrna Beach, a report of rainfall totals over 15, and in Oviedo over 13. And we've narrowed down these four areas, but this is not it for the high rainfall totals that we're seeing. And unfortunately, the rain is still coming down. So we do have that new flash flood warning that has been issued for Flagler County at this time. Maureen?
That's right, Mallory. We have rainfall estimates. We've been showing rainfall estimates throughout the last couple of days, the projected totals of what would occur and also what has been happening as measured by Clystron 13. So if we can take the radar full to be able to show you the box that outlines where we have a flash flood warning. So this is imminent. This means flooding is occurring according to Clystron 13. These are just 6-hour totals, but let's see what's happened in the last 12 hours here. This includes places like Benel and Palm Coast, 12 hours as estimated, 4 to 5 inches, and over half a foot of rain in these places. So this is our flash flood warning that we have in effect going out. Let me switch the radar site to be able to show you the rest of Central Florida. And these are colors that we don't often see on Clystron 13. I'll plot some of them from Volusia County through Seminole County. Again, plotting these around a foot kind of just to align with the graphic that that Mallory was showing to see those rainfall totals. How about what's happening now? We have Clystron 13 with those bands of rain and also some gusty winds embedded coming down the I-4 corridor along the 417, but we're still at a point where we don't want you out on the roads. We've heard from people explaining what it's like in their neighborhoods, and it is just not safe to get out there because of the wind gusts, but also because of that heavy rainfall. There goes Ian, the eye moving away from central Florida. The track has it becoming a hurricane again once it's over the water, but not a threat to us. We're going to show you that track coming up with your weather on the ones, and of course we'll get you caught up on the latest watches and warnings. But the hurricane warnings dropped for us here locally. Still got some tropical storm warnings. Of course, we have all the latest scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Allison, Eric.
All right, Maureen, thank you for
Eerie
that.
to see that color palette on the water total and the rain totals
the purple
on that
is
map.
not normal.
Colors that we don't see.
Indeed, indeed. Well, we were talking about those power outages earlier and how a lot of folks are watching us on the app because that's the only way to watch right now for some of them. So those indeed power outages are a trend in the wake of Ian right now.
Unfortunate, but as expected. Spectrum News 13's Julia Hazel this afternoon with us at Sarasota's International Airport with much more on the power outages. There she is getting ready. And Julia, you're ready. Tell us what you're hearing as far as the power outages are concerned.
Yep, that's right. So here at Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, if you take a look over here at the Area Departure Center, you see part of this roof completely just dangling over the airport building. But, you know, this isn't the only kind of damage that has been here since yesterday afternoon. And of course, crews have been working tirelessly around the clock since last night. But earlier this morning, when we did come over here, we did take a look inside the ticket area and saw so much of the debris from the damage. Just parts of those ceilings were completely scattered across the floor. Some metal you could see in that video. And of course, those crews were just so busy trying to get that space clear, so they're shoveling it into trucks. We were able to speak to the president of the airport. He does tell us the damage started from a centerpiece of the roof over the ticketing area yesterday, and because of how much rain and water buildup there was, he says that's why part of the ceiling has fallen. He says hopefully they can get everything cleaned up by Saturday. All right.
Okay, Julia Hazel with us at the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, SRQ, this afternoon, talking about the damage to the airport. And hopefully they can get that damage cleaned up quickly and get the airport back up and running. I know a lot of people use that as an alternative when they're flying out of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. We know, Eric, also we are waiting on a few more press conferences happening throughout the day, and it's a great way for us to all kind of come together, listen to our emergency management teams, and they're talking about from shelters to the impact to the roads to where to report your power outages. So we're going to be bringing a few of those. I know at 1:30 Brevard County is expected is on deck for that. So we'll be continuing to bring you that.
Yeah, let's regroup here and talk a little bit about what has been happening so far today. We've been hearing about the flooding concerns all throughout the area, specifically in Seminole County, but we've also been hearing about the flooding all the way into Osceola County, Orange County, freshwater flooding. It's been storm surge flooding. It has been all over the place, but the real torrential rain has really been what's to blame for a lot of that flash flooding emergencies in Seminole County that have really been in place all morning, Allison.
Yeah, and the emergency manager, Alan Harris, speaking on this emergency, and he urges people, you just gotta stay home.
Certainly, flooding is a big issue right now. Traffic signals being out is a really major concern for us right now. We're asking people to please do not get on the road.
And rains from Ian, they aren't expected, folks, to lighten up, of course, until later today. I mean, some of you are noticing that already, but folks, especially up in the northeast part of our area. So, and again, if you do come across this flooding, just please turn around. Just don't try to.
We don't want to look at that video
No.
again from I-4 just in the Sanford area. People, look at that.
Yep.
My goodness. Look at the strong winds and rising water. This is from a neighborhood in Orlando, and the bright flashes. So there was some thunder and lightning. I know I heard that plenty last night as some of the feeder bands were feeding on through and lashing us with the high winds and the heavy rain. This is another example of that. And with some of those larger limbs that may have fallen from some of those trees, another reason you might want to stay inside.
Yeah, and we do want to share some sad news in the wake of Ian. And unfortunately, a 72-year-old Deltona man, he died overnight after going outside during the storm to drain his pool. Something I know many of you might have done, and deputies responded to his home. This was after the victim's wife reported that he disappeared after heading outside, and then while searching for him, deputies found his flashlight. Then they spotted the victim, and he was unresponsive right there in a canal behind the home, and he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Again, this happening up in Deltona, rather.
Well, as of right now, the bridges in Volusia County are closed, and that is until further notice. I'm going to list off the areas that are included in that. The 192 International Speedway Bridge, the Main Street, Orange Avenue, Seabreeze Bridges in Daytona Beach, North and South Causeways, the Barracuda Bridge in New Smyrna, and the Dunlawton Bridge in Port Orange. Now, we're talking as well about the Granada Bridge in Ormond Beach. That is the only one that remains open up to this point. But if the wind from the back end of the storm gets too much, they may have to close that too. And also rising water. The U.S. Post Office saying they are suspending all operations until further notice in certain zip codes, Allison.
Yeah, and those include all zip codes that start with, we're going to put them on the screen here. There you go. It's 328, 329, 342, and 347.
And 328, a lot of it is downtown Orlando, for one thing.
Like where we are right now,
yeah.
And the post office says it'll restore mail and delivery service as soon as it's safe to do so. And the retail offices in those locations, they are also closed. So you can find updates right there on the post office website.
And they can usually give us push alerts as well from the post office. I know I get those regular emails about what's coming in my mailbox. Okay, 12:51, time for another check of your weather on the ones.
Welcome back to your Weather on the Ones. Meteorologist Mallory Nichols here with meteorologist Maureen McCann. It has been a long night, a long day yesterday. We're still dealing with impacts, but they are going to start to improve soon.
Right. The winds are eventually going to ease as we go throughout the rest of today. The rain is going to taper, and then the weather will really improve for the cleanup. There's going to be a lot of that the next few days.
Yeah, and we've been getting a lot of pictures, a lot of messages from you. Thank you for sharing what's happening in your area. Keep yourself safe as we start to clean up from Ian. But we did get this shot on our Spectrum News app from Carol in the Daytona Beach area. There's quite a few floodwaters in her location, and we don't want you to get into those floodwaters because it is extremely dangerous. And here's a few reasons why we want you to stay away from that standing water.
Yeah, the expression turn around, don't drown is so important on a day like today, but it's always important when we have our daily thunderstorms, when we experience rain. You never want to go through water when you don't know how deep it is. The expression turn around, don't drown. Find an alternate route and go another way. You never want to get through water when you don't know how deep it is because of the power of water. The amount of water is pretty insignificant to sweep a person away, 6 inches. We can see a car swept away with 12 inches. You may think, I have an SUV, I'll get through. It still is enough to sweep away a large vehicle. And plus, you wouldn't want to get into that water anyways, whether you're in a car or wading through it. Mallory, that's going to be another big hazard that we see here in the coming days.
Yeah, that water's not clear, so you're not able to see what's underneath it. So driving into the water, that road could be completely washed out. As Maureen mentioned, it doesn't take much for it to wash out the roadway. We also have the potential for some live electrical wires that could be in the flood waters and that could electrocute you. So we don't want you to walk into that either. And we also have some wildlife and objects lurking in those waters. floodwaters. That is definitely concerning. Alligators, snakes, even some sharp objects that could be moving toward you. You may not see them until they're right on you. Stay out of the floodwaters until they recede, and then we can go back out in the area. Ian is out over the Atlantic and pulling away. We still have some of those wraparound bands that's going to continue, along with some gusty wind. As we look at the wind impacts here, it looks like tropical storm force winds are going to stick around throughout the afternoon as well as into the evening hours. That yellow band is where we could have gusts over 40 miles per hour by midnight, starting to pull away. And as we look at the rainfall totals and the chance that we could get some rain, that's also going to be starting to lower through the overnight hours. Tomorrow, clearing out, starting to dry out, the rain moves out. And that's going to continue into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday. And we have rain completely out of the forecast. So a great time to rest up from the stress that we've been dealing with the past few days and to also clean up from Ian as we say goodbye to that storm and things begin to settle back down.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much. Let's continue now on the latest levels at the Little Wekiva River, starting to slowly recede, thankfully, after a very scary situation this morning. But if we get any more rainfall, and depending on how much more falls, there is the possibility for another rapid rise. Let's check in with Asher Wildman. He's joining us in Seminole County this afternoon with an update on what he is seeing. Asher, tell me.
In Altamont Springs is a community called Spring Oaks. And in Spring Oaks is a street called the Little Wekiva River Road. The problem is the Little Wekiva River Road is now the Little Wekiva River. Several homes on that road at the bottom of the street live right up against the river, and it's completely flooded to the road. But here's the real thing to know about what's happening with the river, okay? Normally, 836 million pounds of water go through the Little Wekiva River a day. Right now, because of Hurricane Ian, it's looking at 4.4 billion pounds of water. And we were out here earlier when Seminole County Sheriff rescuers were going door to door to people's homes in a rescue boat, either yelling out calls out loud, asking if anybody's home. They were also going up driveways in that boat if the depth of the water was deep enough, trying to knock either on the garage door or a window or a front door, trying to get somebody's attention that was in that home. If they were home, of course, checking to see if they haven't evacuated. But they have rescued several people already late this morning, early this afternoon, and we caught up with one of the people that they did in fact rescue.
Well, luckily, one of the sheriff ladies, she just knocked on our door. She saw us trying to clean up, I guess. She's like, "You guys want rescuing?" We're like, "Hell yeah, get us that." Yeah, we needed that.
As you see, rain continues to fall here in Altamont Springs and Seminole County, and that is not good because, as you already know, there's not a lot of space, if any, anywhere for water to go. One other thing to note, as this storm and Hurricane Ian was tracking north, a lot of this water is going to be going north. The water goes up to Jacksonville, then pours into the Atlantic. So as you can imagine, a lot of water needing to go somewhere. Reporting live in Seminole County, Asher Wildman for Spectrum News.
Okay, Asher, thank you very much. And of course, we want you to stay with us. We will continue our live in-depth team coverage of now Tropical Storm Ian, made landfall yesterday as Hurricane Ian. We're going to have the latest coordinates and where the storm goes from here and when the conditions will begin to improve and we can begin to dry out. So stay with us, please.
Interest rates are still low, making it a great time to use your home equity to pay off high-interest credit cards. Call today to see if you qualify for one of our no-closing cost programs.
If you've been told that implants aren't an option for you, or you're looking at years of bone graft treatment, I'm here to tell you there's a better alternative. New Teeth Now is one of only a small number of surgery centers in the world that routinely place zygomatic implants. These implants are placed at an angle and are much longer than traditional implants. Zygomatic implants are placed in the cheekbone, or the zygoma, completely bypassing the need for bone grafts. Your new teeth are crafted right on site in our lab, and you get to go home with a new smile, all in just one day.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is crazy. Oh, I don't even feel like I'm looking at me.
Wow. Oh my God.
We help patients with bone loss every day. If you've been told that lengthy bone graft treatment is the only way to get implants, call or come and see us. We help patients with bone loss every day.
As millions flock to the metaverse, many are experiencing unnecessary pain and suffering. Injured? Just dial pound law. That's all. Morgan & Morgan, America, and now the universe's largest injury law firm.
Attention Medicare customers with diabetes. Now you can stop the painful pricking of your fingers with a continuous glucose monitor. And they're covered by Medicare if you qualify. Call right now for free information.
Supplementing an insurance claim on the front side really doesn't benefit the homeowner. It strings out the building process, so you could be waiting up to a year before there's an agreement between the contractor and the insurance company on what the dollar amount is to build the job. We'll go ahead and build the job and supplement on the back end. That way it's as painless as possible for the homeowner.
Ian has spiraled its way across the Sunshine State, the impacts being felt now and for quite a while, and now the focus shifts to safety.
Certainly flooding is a big issue right now.
You need to stay off the roads. You can never drive through flooded water.
Right now, continuing team coverage from the Spectrum News 13 weather experts who are here to keep you informed no matter where you live in Central Florida.
That time right now is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Hume.
Hi there, Jerry. And I'm Allison Walker. Now, the worst of the storm, it may have passed, but dangerous conditions remain, Jerry, throughout Central Florida right now.
Yeah, we've been talking all morning long and all afternoon now about the flooding and the standing water that's out there. Big problem. Let's get straight over to our certified meteorologists. They're following the latest. We've got Chief Meteorologist Brian Carrick, joined by meteorologist Mallory Nichols and Maureen McCann.
Thank you, Jerry and Allison. We are still watching rainfall in areas that have been super saturated, and we're going to get to the radar in a second. First, a live shot here from our Weichert Realtors Hallmark Property Skycam, and we have zoomed in at the pavilion down at Lake Eola. If you're familiar with this area, you realize that the water is over where folks sit for programs that are going on down at Lake Eola, and we still have parts of Robinson and Roslyn underwater at this point. Lake Eola and several other area lakes over their banks. Maureen, other areas still being inundated, and the flooding and storm surge concerns are growing.
Right. Wind-driven rain, you can just see it in Orlando. The flood concerns greatest right now. Of course, they are still significant area-wide. Let's go to Flagler County, where we have a flash flood warning that is in effect until 3:15. These bands of rain still pivoting onshore, and there's more to come, so we're not done yet. It's the rain, it's the wind, and also the threat of storm surge as we approach high tide.
Yeah, that's right. And as you look at some of the wind gusts here, notice you can see those white lines there. That's indicating the direction of the wind. So it's pushing onshore in Volusia up into Flagler County. And you can see we do still have wind gusts in the last hour from around Sanford toward the east coast, over 40, even 50 miles per hour, lessening as you move toward the west. But it's still a windy day with that flood risk that remains, but it is going to finally quiet down tonight. Jerry and Allison.
All right, thanks, you guys. Appreciate that. So, yeah, Ian's path through Central Florida has certainly left behind a path of destruction, and we're talking some dangerous flooding stuff we're going to be covering today and into the days ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, unfortunately, and President Joe Biden approved a disaster declaration for Florida. Federal aid is now available to areas impacted by the storm. FEMA will make assessments on damage and could determine additional areas in need of aid.
Yeah, and at the state's Emergency Operations Center, Governor Ron DeSantis provided an update. That was this morning, and he says the water levels in some areas, they could be considered a 500-year flood event. Wow. Listen.
but people should just understand this storm is having broad impacts across the state, and some of the flooding you're going to see in areas hundreds of miles from where this made landfall are going to set records.
And we understand Governor DeSantis headed right to where this hurricane made landfall, and we'll get an update from him later on today. We have live team coverage from coast to coast, keeping you covered with the latest from the storm's worst impact.
Yeah, you can see our reporters spanned all across Central Florida, and we know evacuations are underway in Kissimmee, where there are reports of flooding at Advent Health. So Spectrum News 13's Greg Pallone is live there in Kissimmee. So Greg, tell us what's going on.
Allison, Jerry, yeah, we have flooding here on North Central here in Kissimmee, about a block or so away from the hospital. And it's been like this for hours as the rain continues to come down here. But we had two cars that were stranded in the floodwaters earlier today. One of those towed out about an hour or so ago, but that lone car does remain here in the area. We were told by a resident here of the Polo apartment complex that the firefighters had come in boats to be able to get that driver out of that vehicle. Even more dramatic was another driver of a 4x4 that tried to get through the water and was stuck, then drove forward and started floating in the pond-like water, the parking lot of the apartment complex. That right there was a dangerous situation. Kissimmee police came over in a boat, told them to get out of that vehicle. There was a risk of drowning in the high waters. A couple of other 4x4s came in with winches and some rope and were able to finally pull that vehicle out, and they were on their way. But again, it just goes to show you can have these vehicles that are equipped for this high water even get stuck, and that's how much water that we're dealing with as North Central remains flooded. We're measuring somewhere about 3 feet or so, because there are some ponds in the area that have overflowed as well. And again, some of these lower level buildings are seeing the water also. So again, this is not going anywhere anytime soon. The waters will not be receding, and unfortunately we're continuing to see the rain, so that means that this water will stay here until it stops raining. Reporting live in Kissimmee, Greg Pallone, Spectrum News 13.
And looking forward to seeing the water recede for sure.
It was just captivating watching them try to remove that big vehicle from the ditch there, and assuming that's happening all across Central Florida right now. The latest levels at Little Wekiva are beginning to slow, depending on how much more rainfall the river receives. It's possible for another rapid rise as the rain continues today. We continue our special live team coverage with Spectrum News 13's Asher Wildman. He's live in Seminole County. And Asher, what are you seeing out there this afternoon?
As we're seeing all over Central Florida, flooding is happening, and here in Altamont Springs, it certainly is happening inside the Spring Oaks community in Altamont Springs. What people need to understand about the Little Wekiva River is a lot of the water that comes to this part of Seminole County is coming from South Orlando. Inside this community, let's show you the video, is a road called Little Wekiva River Road. Unfortunately, it is now merged with the river, causing some severe flooding in this residential community and leaving several people inside their homes trapped by the water.
Asher, I'm sorry to interrupt you right now. We do have President Joe Biden speaking at FEMA. Let's listen in.
Just like military service. So when you're called up to help with a disaster, you can now focus on that mission without worrying you might lose your job, your day job, or receive some other penalty at work because of this national service. That's what the CREW Act guarantees. And it's going to help people become more civilian, gain more civilian reservists out there. And it's going to make FEMA stronger. It's going to make America stronger. That's who we are. Every time disaster strikes, emergency crews from all over the country, from across the federal government show up to help, like they're doing right now in Florida. That's America, a country of women and men willing to serve, willing to leave their own families to help a stranger's family. Everyone hard at work in Florida right now deserves our thanks. And when the conditions allow it, I'm going to be going to Florida to thank them personally so we don't get in the way. I'll do our best. We're going to do our best to build Florida back as quickly as possible, but we're not going to be leaving. We're going to build it back with the state and local government. However long it takes, we're going to be there. That's my commitment to you. I want to now turn it over to Secretary Mayorkas.
Sure. Mr. President, do you plan to meet with Governor DeSantis when you're down there?
I'll meet with everybody who's around.
And Mr.
The answer is yes, if he wants to meet.
Do you plan to go to Puerto Rico as well?
That's my intention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Our hearts go out to the people in the affected areas. At DHS, our highest priority is the preservation of life and safety. DHS is working with our federal, state, local, and non-governmental partners to support the needs of the areas that are and may be impacted by Hurricane Ian. I want to thank the President for his leadership in signing the major disaster declaration that jumpstart impacted Floridians' road to recovery. FEMA and the United States Coast Guard are focused on life-saving and life-sustaining response operations, and we are launching the recovery mission. The Coast Guard has completed extensive preparations in advance of Hurricane Ian to minimize impacts to maritime commerce, ensure public safety, and position ourselves for a rapid response. Currently, the Coast Guard has aircraft, cutters, flood response assets, and response personnel staged throughout Florida ready for immediate deployment. FEMA has teams in place who are ready to help those who need it most. We have thousands of our personnel of Homeland Security, not only from FEMA and the United States Coast Guard, but also from our Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and from TSA. Today, I will be activating the DHS Surge Capacity Force so that we can bring to bear additional personnel from across the department to support disaster survivors in Florida. When a catastrophic event hits, DHS approaches response and recovery work with the full expanse of our resources and our capabilities. Our work in support of those affected by Ian will continue in the days, weeks, and months to come. This is not just a here today and gone tomorrow. We are here, as the President has articulated, throughout to support disaster survivors in Florida. When a catastrophic event hits, DHS approaches response and recovery work with the full expanse of our resources and our capabilities. Our work in support of those affected by Ian will continue in the days, weeks, and months to come. This is not just a here today and gone tomorrow. We are here, as the President has articulated, throughout the need for full recovery. In that regard, with respect to Puerto Rico, as the President mentioned yesterday, I approved a temporary and targeted Jones Act waiver to ensure that the people of Puerto Rico have sufficient diesel to run generators needed for electricity and the functioning of critical facilities as they recover from Hurricane Fiona. We are in it for the long haul. Now, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Administrator Deanne Criswell of FEMA.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I would first like to, again, begin by thanking the President for being here in FEMA's National Response Coordination Center. This is the heartbeat of what we do right here. This is where we bring the federal family together. These are some amazing public servants. I'd also like to thank the President for signing the CREW Act earlier this morning. Mr. President, behind us here are dedicated public servants from across the federal family. Behind us are the dedicated public servants who have been working tirelessly, day in and day out, to get help to those who need us most. These are the dedicated public servants who have put the needs of others before their own. And these are the public servants that we count on to respond to America's worst day. This is what the full force of the federal family looks like right here behind me. I'd like to recognize every single person here, as well as those on the ground in Florida and those supporting from our Region 4 office in Atlanta, for the extraordinary efforts that they have put forth during this historic emergency response. So we have been brought together here in a moment when millions of Floridians are navigating the aftermath of what is going to be one of the most catastrophic events they've experienced. My heart aches for those people who have been in the path of Hurricane Ian, for the lives that have been forever changed by this storm, and for the communities that will simply never be the same. America woke up this morning to images like Naples, Punta Gorda, and Cape Coral submerged underwater. homes across Fort Myers that have been torn from their foundations, and boats that have been found blocks away from where they were moored. But Hurricane Ian is still a very life-threatening storm. We are expecting the storm to continue making its way to Georgia, South Carolina, and into North Carolina, maintaining tropical storm force winds, deadly storm surge, and rainfall of up to 12 inches. As many have said, Hurricane Ian is going to be a storm that we talk about for decades. But from the moment Hurricane Ian became a threat, we already had the right teams in place who were ready to answer the call of those that need us most. To the heroic first responders and search and rescue teams that have been running towards danger to save lives, to the brave medical teams providing compassionate and life-saving care, to the local, state, and federal emergency managers working side by side to tackle challenge after challenge, to our meteorological partners who have been providing us with critical weather data hour after hour, and to the voluntary partners providing food and shelter to those who have just lost everything. I thank you, all of you. We thank you, and our nation thanks you. Now, we know that the next few days are going to be difficult. We have some very complex problems that we are going to have to solve. But like I said, we have the right teams in place who are ready to help those who need us most. And as I shared with the President just moments ago, search and rescue missions are already taking place across the impacted areas by land, air, and sea. We have teams ensuring critical health facilities like hospitals and adult care facilities have the support they need to care for their patients or evacuate them if still needed. We have power restoration teams making their way into devastated communities that help bring communities back online. And while we are focused on life-saving and life-sustaining response operations, we are already launching our recovery mission. An interagency recovery group is already planning for the long-term recovery needs, such as housing, debris removal, and critical infrastructure repair, as we know this is going to be a complex
And you've been listening in from the FEMA National Response Coordination Center. President Joe Biden saying that when conditions allow, that he will be down here to Florida. But right now he says he just doesn't want to get in the way, so won't be here just yet.
Plans to meet with anyone who wants to meet with him, including Governor DeSantis. Earlier this morning, he approved a major disaster declaration for Florida, all because of Hurricane Ian. We're going to get right to our reporters for our team coverage. We've got Katie Strite. She is joining us live from Avante in Orange County, where we've had some rescues today. Katie.
Yes, I'm currently at Avante at Orlando, where there is where they are evacuating folks in the nursing home. Now I'm going to take you guys over here to where they are evacuating folks, and they're evacuating folks because of the concern of flooding in the area. We've seen a number of first responders going in and out of the building, even in stretchers, to make sure everyone is comfortable with evacuating. And you can see even now the flooding is kind of coming up and at them right over here. And over here, we're going to take you into this area where they have buses already lined up for the residents here at the nursing home to go into a shelter where they would be comfortable and safe from the flooding. And so we're going to keep you guys updated with all of this pertinent information. But of course, you can see already the conditions out here are severe, and so we are trying to make sure that everyone is safe in this area. Live in Orlando, Katie Strite, Spectrum News.
Yeah, a very scary situation, obviously, for all those residents of that nursing home and their family members.
Indeed. So, Katie, thank you for that live report. And we want to continue our team coverage right now with Jason Delgado. Jason is joining us from our state's EOC. So, Jason, what's the latest word up there? What's the conversation?
Good afternoon. The governor's slated to speak around 1:45 today in Punta Gorda. He'll be with the First Lady, and it's going to be their first trip down to Southwest Florida since the storm made landfall. Now, obviously, the damage there is pretty extensive. DeSantis this morning used words like catastrophic and historic to describe the aftermath. Meanwhile, search and rescue operations are top of mind. More than 7,000 guardsmen are mobilized around the state. And DeSantis is also urging the federal government for more resources through a emergency declaration. We had one approved earlier this hours past, but now we're looking to free up more resources to help with that search and rescue mission. That's the latest here in the Capitol. Back to you.
All right, so we just heard from Jason. So at 1:45, we're expecting to hear from our governor. So we'll make sure to bring that to you as that happens. And before that, at 1:30, we're expecting Brevard County as well.
And he had mentioned earlier this morning in Tallahassee he was going to head down there to survey the damage firsthand. So we, of course, will continue to follow that for you as well. People are waking up on Little Wekiva Road in Altamont Springs to record level flooding.
Yeah, and that is according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. After Hurricane Ian passed through. And look at this. You can see in the video so much water. It's up to that person's knees right there. We can see sandbags right in the garage to help block some of that water from getting in and damaging the cars. So that flooding is expected to pour over into Spring Oaks neighborhood, and other areas are expected to experience flash flooding as well. Now, according to Seminole County's Twitter, the Doppler radar indicates 6 to 8 inches of rain haven't fallen, with additional rainfall of maybe 4 to 6 inches or more in parts of Seminole County in east central Florida. So new video right there.
And you really see from that those sandbags can help out.
Yeah, so it's worth that trip. It's worth that digging and the hauling. Yeah. Indeed. So folks in Brevard County, they are being asked right now to limit their water usage.
Yeah, and we've been seeing all day long how bad flooding is in different parts of Florida. And as rain continues from Ian, Brevard County utilities are asking residents to reduce water usage, especially flushing toilets, doing laundry, and taking long showers. They say this will help reduce the chances of backups into people's homes and in the streets and river.
Yeah, and Charter Communications, folks, has opened nearly 175,000 free Spectrum out-of-home Wi-Fi access points across Florida. We're talking Georgia, South Carolina, and this free access is to in support of response to then Hurricane Ian, now Tropical Storm Ian.
And Allison, these access points can be found in public parks, marinas, city streets, and other public areas. Please log on to our website, mynews13.com, where we have a map of available access points. Charter is the parent company of Spectrum News 13.
Yes, and remember, you folks can count on us to bring you the very latest updates throughout this whole ordeal. So we're bringing you live coverage on air, as you know, and we are constantly updating our app. And there you'll be able to see key information from local leaders, closures, everything you need to know right now. And anyone can stream Spectrum News 13 for free, because I know some of you are without power, and that is using the Spectrum News app.
Yes, and Claystone 13, obviously very important to watch. We're still dealing with the impacts. We want to get a check of your weather on the ones and the latest track on Ian.
Continues to have an impact on us today here in Central Florida. While it's not the severity of what we had this morning in terms of the rain actually occurring, there are still some hazards, and we're going to be dealing with these floodwaters for a while.
Yeah, and unfortunately it is a mess out there. Yeah. And we do still have some of that rain, but conditions are going to start to improve. So here's what to think about ahead for the rest of today. We still have that wraparound rain. Ian is moving away from us, but we'll keep that possibility for showers as we head through the afternoon into the evening hours, so that flood risk does remain. It's probably going to be for quite some time before we completely dry out, but conditions are going to start quieting down tonight and improve quite a bit as we head into Friday and the weekend. But here's the latest on Ian. The wind speeds have been able to drop over land, but this center of circulation is back out over the warm waters of the Atlantic, and there could be some strengthening. Don't worry about that. That doesn't mean anything different for us. However, as we look at the track, areas a little more to the north of us, this could strengthen a bit more as it pushes toward the coast of South Carolina. So because of that, there are hurricane watches that are in effect, and you can see this blue line still indicating tropical storm warnings. Those gusts over 40 miles per hour are still possible, and we're dealing with some of the rain bands, the flooding. But as we look at the wind flow here, notice as it starts to pull away, we have some of that onshore wind still for some of our counties, and that's keeping us with a storm surge threat as well. Maureen?
Yeah, Mallory, storm surge is something that is a threat with any landfalling tropical system. It's why we have the warning in effect for Flagler County and the St. Johns Basin. That storm surge represents the water that gets pushed onto normally dry land. We find the water levels rising due to the wind field that pushes the water onto land, and then there's also the wave activity on top of it, plus the rain that's occurring. So with homes that are on the coast, that water can come up quickly, and the power of water, as we've been talking about with Weather on the Ones, that can wash away homes, wash away roads. The projected storm surge totals are going to be in the range of around 1 to 3 feet, if not higher, based on some of this modeling we're getting on Clystron 13. The storm surge, just one of the hazards, in addition to those gusty bands that are on the back side of the storm. Futurecast shows how they're going to be the last to depart in Flagler and Volusia counties. But then as Ian pulls away, we eventually pull in drier air on the back side of it. Our winds turn around from the north to the west, and that is going to pave the way for a much quieter forecast for the Friday time frame, and most importantly, the weekend. I think we're all looking forward to the weekend, not only because we are getting back to the sunshine, also some lower humidity. Of course, there's a lot of cleanup that's going to have to occur, so that weather at least will be conducive for people being outdoors and getting things starting, or getting the cleaning process underway. Low rain chances return early to the middle part of next week.
And our team coverage continues in downtown Orlando, where the water, it has nowhere to go. Morning anchor Beth Brusois was on location. She walked over from our studio to check it out firsthand. Watch.
Right here, right now, flooding is the big story. We're in the heart of downtown Orlando. This is the Lake Eola Fountain, an iconic place. Right here is the amphitheater. This is where so many events have been held through the years for Christmas. We also had a remembrance ceremony after the Pulse attack, very moving, but now water has taken over the entire front stage area and all of the seating area right here. I would say a few dozen rows has been taken over by so much water. I've seen some of the fish in here. There's lots of debris. I would say it comes up almost to my waist, but I'm not that deep because, well, I don't want to get wet. But right now the water's coming up to almost my knees. A very dramatic scene. I have lived here since 1981. I have never ever seen flooding like this in downtown Orlando. We'll continue to monitor the situation and survey more damage around downtown. That's the very latest from downtown Orlando. Beth Brusois, Spectrum News.
And Spectrum News 13's Bree McNaught is also tracking flooding concerns at Lake Eola. So here's what she saw in that area this morning.
I'm here at Lake Eola, right by Robinson Street in downtown Orlando. And as you can see from Eola Drive all the way down to Roslyn, Robinson Street is underwater. There's a car underwater stuck. They are not moving anytime soon. There are ducks crossing Robinson Street, swans as well, going into Lake Eola Heights area. As you can see next to me over here, this is normally a grass lot where people do yoga on the weekends. There are farmers markets, there are festivals. That is completely underwater. The ducks are swimming in it. They are finding refuge in the extra water that they have. Lake Eola has completely spilled over here, like I said, onto Robinson Street, onto the grassy area. There's also, I don't know if you can see this over here with me, Josh, if you want to walk a little bit. There's a boat over there. I believe that's a boat that goes and takes care of all of the different wildlife in the area. That seems to be docked and not moving anytime soon. I'm not sure if you can see that at all. But Lake Eola is flooding over already. I have a feeling that as the daylight continues to come, we're only going to see more and more of this throughout downtown Orlando. But for now, reporting from Lake Eola, Bree McNaught, Spectrum News 13.
And remember, you can count on us to bring you the latest updates throughout this storm. And we're bringing you live coverage on air, as you know. And we're also constantly updating our app. And there you'll be able to see some key info from local leaders, closures, everything you need to know right now. And just so you know, anyone can stream Spectrum News 13 for free using the Spectrum News app. And as you know, we'll be with you all day long as we continue to assess Ian's impact across the Sunshine State. So we have weather updates every 10 minutes with your Weather on the Ones. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back.
321 Plastics is your one-stop shop for all your display needs. From eyeglass holders to pedestals, custom cut sizes available. Orders shipped directly from our warehouse. Come check us out today.
Save thousands at the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Blowout Expo this weekend at the Merritt Square Mall, Merritt Island. Major brands of quality hot tubs and Michael Phelps swim spas ready for immediate delivery. Financing is available at the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Expo this Friday through Sunday.
Admiral wash machine made by Whirlpool, $337. Appliance Direct, now 9 Central Florida locations. 3.5 cubic foot washer, $337 with classic white porcelain tub. And dual action agitator, $337. Brand new washer, $337. Brand new in the box. Thank you.
Mom! When you need medical care and need it fast, think MedFast. MedFast is faster and less expensive than the emergency room. Sprain? Call MedFast. Cut? Call MedFast. Why wait for hours in the emergency room?
Choose MedFast.
MedFast Urgent Care. When you need medical care and need it fast, call 321 MedFast. Online at medfastcare.com.
Don't miss the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Blowout Expo this Friday through Sunday at the Merritt Square Mall, Merritt Island. Relaxation, rehabilitation, or recreation. Unbeatable prices on major brands of hot tubs and quality swim spas that will save you time and money compared to an in-ground pool.
Ian has spiraled its way across the Sunshine State, the impacts being felt now and for quite a while, and now the focus shifts to safety.
Certainly flooding is a big issue right now.
You need to stay off the roads. You can never drive through flooded water.
Right now, continuing team coverage from the Spectrum News 13 weather experts who are here to keep you informed no matter where you live in Central Florida.
And it is a busy Thursday afternoon. I'm Jerry Hume.
Hey there, Jerry. Yeah, I'm Allison Walker. Thanks for staying with us, folks. So, you know, the worst of the storm, that has passed. That's really good news.
Yes.
You know, but of course, as you're seeing from all of our reporters just peppered throughout Central Florida, the dangerous conditions, they remain throughout our area.
And we're going to hear from Brevard County officials in just a moment, but we want to get straight over to our weather experts. They're still following and tracking the latest with Ian. We've got Chief Meteorologist Brian Carrick joined with meteorologist Mallory Nichols.
Thank you, Jerry and Allison. Still watching Ian pull away from the coast, a tropical storm, and expected to become a hurricane again tonight as it makes its way towards South Carolina. We are still getting lashed out with some strong wind, and at this point, Mal, the wind itself is cranking up in some spots.
Yeah, and we do have some cities that aren't even reporting wind gusts. That could mean the sensors are out. We have other spots that are reporting gusts over 40, 50, and these are just at specific locations. I'm not sure exactly where the sensors are. They could be blocked, but regardless, there are definitely some high winds, especially in northern Lake, Volusia, and up into Flagler County.
Yeah, so some of these reporting sites, these are the official sites. We don't have sensors in other areas. Some of you may be getting higher gusts, but obviously we're not able to get the sensors for those because they are just not as spread out. Now we're getting the outer bands rotating around Ian offshore. We are continuing to see the back edge of this, though. I've been seeing little peaks and little glimmers of some much lighter sky over Orlando, but right now the heavy rain continues to fall over Flagler and Volusia County. As we get into the nighttime hours tonight and the upcoming weekend, we start drying out quickly. Allison and Jerry, the weekend for cleanup, it does look very, very nice and dry.
All right, thank you so much, Brian Carrick and Mallory Nichols. We're hoping to hear from Brevard County officials on the latest efforts. There's some technical issues with their feed, but we'll continue to keep you posted on what happens and what's going on in the Space Coast.
Yeah, indeed. We'll, of course, bring you those key points from whatever they have to say, which is currently happening right now. But right now, evacuations, they are underway in Kissimmee. You know, lots of reports of flooding there. We've been going back and forth with Spectrum News 13's Greg Pallone today. So, Greg, there's just such a scene behind you every time we toss you, pulling out trucks from the water. What are you seeing right now out there? Gosh.
Yeah, Allison, Jerry, if you're not familiar with this area, you would think this was a lake because that's basically what we have, a lake that has formed here at the intersection of Central and Park Place here in Kissimmee, right near the Terrace of Kissimmee Rehabilitation Center. So this the currents are flowing extremely well here in this area, at least 2-3 feet deep in some areas here, and roads are blocked off. Obviously, this is not even close to being passable for any kind of traffic. You could get your boat out here, but that's about it. Again, this is not normally a lake. There is a retention pond across the way from that. Obviously, that overflowed, but just this area inundated with water from all of the rain that we have seen over the last 12, 14 hours. We continue to get some sprinkles and some rain, so this is not going to be receding anytime soon. But again, you can just see how deep this water is based on the signs and the power poles that are out in the middle of this along what is Central. Central is under there somewhere, but again, this is not drivable by any means. A very dangerous situation. Officials have these in and out points blocked off to make sure no one goes out here and is unsafe. Again, still seeing some rain out this way. This is not going to be receding anytime soon. It's getting a little cooler, and we've got some wind and, of course, that rain. So we'll see how things go. But this area definitely blocked off for the foreseeable future. Live in Kissimmee, Greg Pallone, Spectrum News 13.
Boy, I mean, to see the tops of the signage, that's just extraordinary.
Yeah, and that is a scene we're seeing all across Central Florida. We want to go over to Orange County now, where flooding has been a concern, and there's actually been some rescue efforts there. Spectrum News 13's Rebecca Turco, she's joining us live in Orlo Vista. And Rebecca, what's the latest where you are?
Yeah, well, this is an area that we were here all day yesterday warning folks really that this was an area of concern because of all the retention ponds in the area that flooding could happen. And unfortunately, that is indeed what happened. So, yes, we're in the Orla Vista area. And really, if we zoom in, we can see, look at these cars. They are just, this area is just completely flooded. So we're told the Orange County Sheriff's Office emergency response team that they've made some 15 rescues so far today.
today, and that they're continuing to knock on doors. And the National Guard is here as well, checking in on folks who live in the homes that are flooded here, making sure they're okay, checking to see if they want assistance getting out of their homes and potentially being brought to shelters. So this is certainly an ongoing situation. But again, from what we can see, it's at least several blocks. We haven't been able to make our way through much of the Orla Vista area yet. We got here maybe some 20 minutes ago, but it's a lot for the folks here to wrap their heads around. And we can actually see a boat to the side here. We aren't quite sure yet whether it was emergency crews who had used that boat or if it happened to be a resident's boat, perhaps, that they were helping people out. So certainly this is very much developing. We have questions that we're hoping to get answers to, and I'm sure the people who live here as well, because now they're really picking up the pieces. But the good news is, from what we've heard so far from the sheriff's office, from deputies making these rescues, that they were able to get people out safely. So that's the good news. Hopefully everyone is still okay. And we're working to get some more details on that, and also getting a sense of just how widespread this flooding is. But certainly it's quite the picture to see. Back to you guys.
All right, Rebecca, great reporting. Thank you for that.
And you see that flooding in Rebecca's picture there, and also in Greg's, and you just want to stay away from that. Stay home if you can, because we're dealing with widespread flooding on a lot of the roadways, including the major roadways like I-4 and I-95. And remember, your vehicle can stall if you get stuck in that standing water.
Yes, great reminder for sure. We have some video here, Jerry, that we want to show you all. There's this woman who was wading through water, and this is in downtown Orlando. So
unbelievable to see downtown Orlando like that.
No, these are roads that we're so familiar with, and this is something you just don't want to do.
Yeah, you don't want your car to go in the water like that, and you don't want to go into the water like that.
No.
Something like just only like 6 inches of rain, of water, can throw you off your feet, and you don't want to be stuck in that kind of, and that's even higher, obviously waist deep water there.
And I don't know what she's carrying or what's going on. There's no reason to be, you just don't know what's underneath you. So that, again, is in downtown Orlando.
And yeah, you know, you could have like electrical power lines. You just don't know. So you just want to stay out of the water like that.
And then in East Orange County, look at this, folks, from above, flooding happening in East Orange County. Again, you can see those roadways, and like that car, you don't want to try it. I know you're thinking, it's just about 10 more feet, maybe 20 more feet. I can do it. My truck can handle it. But guess what? Oftentimes it does not. You do not know the depth. So that is very, very dangerous. It's just not worth it. Wherever you're trying to get to, it's not worth it. And plus, all of our emergency management officials all day long saying you don't have to go anywhere today, just stay put.
Yeah, turn around, don't drown. And then we have a water rescue caught on camera in Naples. Pretty dramatic. You can see firefighters in chest deep water slowly walking a person to safety here. And you know, they've been so busy down on the Gulf Coast after Ian made landfall yesterday, still working, and those storm surges, just incredible to see that water.
Yeah, and the person, we're told, is eventually walked up the stairs of a nearby building. So look at those men and women helping out there. Just always very cool to see that, the community there. And then also, we do want to show you, this is a time lapse of Sanibel Island. Look at that time lapse of the destruction. Wow, this is the first time I'm seeing this. This is just 30 minutes condensed down into a couple of seconds, Jerry.
Yeah, the water continuing to rise in that area, and that just shows you the power of that storm surge and Ian, and as it made landfall yesterday off the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, well, great video, guys. Yeah.
We're still tracking Ian, of course, the tropical storm. A big impact still happening in Volusia and Flagler counties in our area, and then expected to become a hurricane again out in the Atlantic Ocean. Wow. So let's get the latest now with here at 1:41 with a check of your weather on the ones.
Thanks, Jerry and Allison. And yeah, that's a scary time lapse. You see that water climb so fast, and we have definitely been dealing with some flooding concerns here. Ian is a tropical storm at this point, is pulling away from us. So while it's out over the waters, there is that strengthening possible, as Jerry mentioned, but our conditions are still going to improve tonight into tomorrow, and especially this weekend as those quiet conditions return. Now, I want to show you this photo. I've been going through a lot of the photos. You guys have been sending us reports of what it looks like where you are. We really appreciate it. This one from Michael in the Ponce Inlet area, and you can see the inlet has climbed and some of that water is pushing very close to his home here, and hopefully that recedes quickly. But we do still have some areas dealing with some heavy rain and gusty wind. This is our Flooring Center camera in Claremont, and there's mainly some light to moderate rain over near Claremont in Lake County, but there's still some gusty wind, and you can see the camera shaking quite a bit as those wind gusts still roll through. So a check here of Kleinstrawn 13. We've got some of those rain bands. Jerry and Allison.
Today, thanks so much, Mallory. So we showed you the scenes in Osceola County and Orange County. We're going to go to Seminole County in just a moment, but we continue to track conditions that are happening all across Central Florida, because even though Ian is making its way north of us, we're still dealing with the impacts.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when we went to bed last night, we just, there's nothing worse than not knowing what's happening outside. And hour by hour today, we're starting to figure out and to see just what that immense amount of rain can do and will continue to do in the next few days as we pick up. It's just a wild inconvenience.
New information from UCF. Classes on Saturday classes have been canceled. So opening date, we should find out tomorrow. So excellent. Some update. I know a lot of schools still out, as we still have a lot of debris out there from the heavy winds and rains that have certainly caused a lot of issues for people out there and that are trying to hopefully to clean up.
Yeah, and we do want to toss it back over to Mallory. So Mallory, what do you have?
Hey guys, sorry, got cut off just a little bit ago, but I want to go in more detail on what we're seeing with Kleinstrawn 13 at this point. And as I put this back into motion, I know a lot of people wondering when that rain is going to start to come to an end, when we'll finally wrap up some of this activity. So I am going to switch here. This radar in particular, this is what we're looking at for still some of those bands that are pushing around the center of circulation, which is well off now to the east of northern Brevard County, right about here. That's where the center is located at this point. But we've still got some of those rain bands that are kicking back toward the East Coast inland. Still some heavy showers that are coming down in the area. So I'll stop this loop and go in just a little bit closer. I want to start in Flagler County. We do have from Palm Coast, Beverly Beach, down toward Ormond Beach, Ormond by the Sea. The yellows that are picking up here are some of those heavier bands, and this is a little farther inland too as well, near Crescent City. And as we go a little more to the south into parts of Volusia County, we've got some of those light to moderate rain bands. Oak Hill, Bethune Beach, seeing some of that yellow popping up as well. And down into Orange County, Osceola County, there's still some of that wraparound activity. And unfortunately, Ian, as we've seen over the last couple of days, very slow moving. So while it is pulling away, some of this rain will continue to circle inland. So we still have that flood concern, and that's going to remain for the rest of today, possibly into tonight as we begin to clear out. But then by tomorrow and heading toward the weekend, we'll definitely be able to clear out. Let me go back to that picture really quickly here. I showed this earlier, Flooring Center camera in Claremont. It actually looks like the rain has picked up a little more, visibility down quite a bit, and that's the case that we're seeing with some of those bands that are still moving across the area. So as we look at our futurecast here, this is at about 3 o'clock. Still some of that activity that's across the area, and it's going to begin to move a little closer to the East Coast slowly over the next few hours. By 6 o'clock, we still have some of that rain for Volusia up into Flagler County, maybe even northern Brevard County. And then as we go toward about 8 o'clock, Flagler, possibly down in Volusia County, still some of that lingering rain. But by 11 o'clock, maybe a few sprinkles lingering, but a lot of that rain will start to push out and we will begin to clear out as we head into the overnight hours. So a check of some of the impacts for the rest of today. Tropical storm winds are still possible with those bands of rain. Tonight we'll begin to clear out the rain, decreasing wind through the overnight hours. And then for tomorrow, skies are going to be clearing and we're going to be able to dry back out. Allison and Jerry.
All right. Thank you so much, meteorologist Mallory Nichols. Hopefully it clears up, as Mallory alluded to, so that people can clean up out there. Just hopefully it's not too hot because a lot of people still without power.
That's the thing. And this weekend looks like Chamber of Commerce weather. So we do love looking toward the positive things, and that will be happening this weekend.
Not looking like Chamber of Commerce weather are our traffic cameras. And in my day job, Allison, I cover some real-time traffic. So let's take a look at conditions out there live on the roadways. We first will start with you with, well, you pick. This is going to be Ivanhoe Boulevard, and we look at the stalled vehicle. It's been here for much of the day now, and you can see that other truck trying to get around. Remember, try to avoid that stalled water because you could get stuck like that sedan did. This is that Ivanhoe Boulevard, the I-4 West Express off-ramp into downtown Orlando.
What shocked you, do you think, the most as you're reporting on
just seeing the conditions on I-4 earlier? We saw in Seminole County just massive amounts of water and cars getting stuck. They had rescues at 46 and I-4. It's just incredible to see this morning.
Yeah, indeed. And so I know a lot of the roads that are very familiar to us, almost unrecognizable, even coming into downtown Orlando. The main exit coming from 408 East to downtown Orlando, we just like that. We had someone stall this morning and had to maneuver.
Turn around, don't drown.
Yep.
The big advice.
You got it. So we're going to pause here. I think we're going to a break. Is that right? In the back? All right. Let's take a break here, and we'll be back in just a few. Jerry, but it might have been purposeful.
From sunrise to sunset, stay informed with the Spectrum News morning and evening briefing. This hurricane season, stay informed and prepared with the Spectrum News app. Get up-to-the-minute information from your weather experts, live Klystron 13 radar, and set up essential alerts when you need them most. Spectrum News, your community connection. Available on the App Store and Google Play. And the Spectrum News 13 weather experts will always keep you ahead of the storm with the fastest and most detailed information, plus the context you need to be prepared, keeping you safe this hurricane season on your television and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Get more MPGs and 1.9% financing at Ron Norris Honda and Space Coast Honda with new inventory arriving daily. It's easy to drive the most fuel-efficient automaker in America. Honda. Save at the pump with up to 40 MPGs for Honda cars and trucks. And save even more with 1.9% financing on your new Honda. Only at your two participating Brevard Honda dealers, Ron Norris Honda and Space Coast Honda.
Mike Erdman Cadillac, quality you can trust. 32 years of business, located in beautiful Merritt Island, Florida. New luxurious Cadillacs and over 350 plus quality pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Expectations are exceeded with the Mike Erdman Cadillac VIP Family Plan. Complimentary no-cost maintenance, plus 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. Mike Erdman Cadillac, quality you can trust. Call or visit us today.
Not sure who you can trust to replace your old worn-out windows? One company comes highly recommended. Renewal by Andersen. Homeowners trust and love our replacement windows and doors. Take the first step. Contact us for the best home improvement experience you'll ever have. Save now. For a limited time, get these huge savings and special financing. Call now for a free consultation or visit us online.
We'll get back to that weather in just a moment, but we want to take you to Governor Ron DeSantis, live now in Punta Gorda. Let's listen in.
Of efforts on the barrier islands to bring people to safety, particularly in Lee County, but also in Charlotte and in Naples and in Collier County. And you have people, the electrical, the power, they're all here. We have Eric Szilagyi from Florida Power and Light, which he'll give an update on what they're doing. But from the minute they could get in here, they've been in here working on being able to get people connected again. I've talked to two of the major CEOs for the telecom companies about their restoration services, and fortunately, some of their infrastructure has done okay. They do more. Our DEM is also putting the mobile cell phone towers to be able to help restore communications, and we've got an inordinate amount of food and water that is either here or is very close on the way. Life safety, of course, is critical. Anyone stranded on one of those barrier islands want to make sure that they're safe. And I know here in Charlotte, any of the neighborhoods that experienced a lot of wind or water damage, these folks are there. They're working to make sure people are safe, and that is true in Lee and Collier County as well. So that's really, really important. We also got to just stabilize the area with these key services, and so we've got a huge amount of resources that have been brought to bear to be able to do that, and we're going to continue doing it. This is going to be a 24/7 operation because we realize how important it is. We also understand there's a lot of people that have asked what they can do to help the people of the state of Florida, particularly down in this region, and the First Lady will talk in a minute, but we have a fund, FloridaDisasterFund.org, FloridaDisasterFund.org. You text disaster to 20222. You can make a contribution, and at the end of the day, we've got supplies that have been pre-staged that are being used, and that's important. We don't necessarily need people to send us stuff. What we need is to be able to help those relief organizations help the folks. I mean, we're surveying the damage right now. Some people that evacuated, they're going to go back and look at their homes and see, is there flood damage? Is there wind damage? Is it going to be habitable? And so all those things, as those happen, we're going to get a clearer picture of some of the unique needs that individuals in this region may have. And so your financial contribution can make a world of difference. And so we're happy that so many people have done. I think we're over $2 million already within less than 24 hours, and I know many more people want to do. But I'm really impressed with the resiliency that we're seeing here in Charlotte County. This is not anything anyone wanted to deal with. I mean, if you go back 72 hours before landfall, most of Southwest Florida was not even in the cone, and then you have a situation where you're staring down the barrel of a hurricane making landfall at 155 miles an hour. So the response here and just the way people have reacted has been very, very impressive, and we understand this is just the beginning. There's a lot more that's going to need to be done, and the state of Florida is going to be good partners with the folks here at the local level. I'm going to let the First Lady talk about relief efforts, and then we'll have Kevin Guthrie and then Eric Szilagyi from FP&L will give an update on the power situation.
No, I just have to echo that. We are just so proud of the people of Southwest Florida, the resiliency and the courage and strength that you're exhibiting, the people here at the Emergency Operations Center, and frankly, people across the state of Florida. We just couldn't be not more proud of what you have done to support your fellow Floridians and also the people across the country. So the governor mentioned a second ago the Disaster Recovery Fund, disasterrecoveryfund.org. You can donate there. It's a 501c3. Why that's important, again, is because we can take those resources and micro-target them and get them directly to the ground as quickly and efficiently as possible. As I said this morning, and I reiterate this, we are going to cut through any red tape and bureaucracy because we know people need those funds and they need help. And so we're really committed to making sure that we do that. The other thing is you can text disaster to 20222. Those funds will obviously go to the same spot, and we'll be able to deploy those resources very quickly. But again, on behalf of the state of Florida and the governor, myself, all the people, the first responders, the EOC, thank you to the people across the state and the country for stepping up big. We are at $1.6 million, less than 24 hours after we launched the fund. That was at 8 a.m. this morning. We are well over $2 million as of a little while ago, and I think we're going to have even more funds at the end of the day. And again, that goes directly to the great people here in Southwest Florida and all the way across the state. So God bless you.
Yeah, thanks. And some of the responders who are ready, the storm has got to go before you can really get in there because it's very hazardous. And some of these guys are coming across Alligator Alley like midnight, like literally knocking on the door of tropical storm to be able to get in and help people. And so you look at these USAR teams that we've had over from Miami-Dade. We want to thank them, thank the National Guard, thank the Coast Guard. They've been able to do a lot of successful missions already, and it's really been great to see everybody working together. Part of the reason that happens is because of the coordination at the state level, and that's under the direction of Kevin Guthrie, who's our emergency management director, and he's going to provide an update.
All right, thank you, Governor. So I got here first thing with the governor. Obviously, talked to Sheriff Prummel, talked to the fire chief, talked to emergency management director Patrick Fuller. Obviously, everyone very thankful of the resources that have been provided. There were a handful of missions that have just come up in the last couple of minutes. I'm proud to report that we are already mobilizing personnel for those missions, and also providing the resources. One of those is a generator, so that is already been sourced and already being mobilized. So we hope to have that here by midnight tonight on the generator at a minimum. The mechanic for the generator that's in question, that is having some issues, is already only 30 minutes out. So I'm very, very proud of the men and women in our logistics section, specifically at the Florida Division of Emergency Management. They have been very, very flexible, and they have been very, very responsive, and far exceeding our expectations in a normal disaster like this. So to have a mechanic almost 30 minutes away when you make a request about an hour ago is just fantastic. So again, that comes from great leadership, and it starts with the governor, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Great. Part of the preparations for this storm was to have as many resources pre-staged that could go in and help with critical infrastructure like power. And we were able to go meet with some of the linemen up in Lake City in North Florida, thank them. These are people coming from all over the country. I mean, they're coming from Louisiana, Alabama, Texas, and we had over 42,000 at landfall. I'm sure there's more in the state right now. When we were going back to Tallahassee from Lake City, you saw truck after truck after truck on I-10 eastbound coming in to be able to help respond to this. And part of the reason we're able to do that is because we've got a lot of utilities that this isn't their first rodeo. They take this very seriously. They learn from past storms, and they put that knowledge to good use. And so Florida Power and Light has the biggest footprint of personnel that have been brought into the state to help get everybody back. And Eric Szilagyi is here, who's the president of FPL, and he's going to provide an update on their efforts.
Thank you, Governor. So we have deployed about 20,000 crews across the state of Florida. Just to remind you, the storm is still battering the northeast part of the state. Daytona is being hit right now. We have about 1.2 million customers who are out of power, but we have been able to restore over 700,000 customers before the storm has even left the state, and we're going to continue to work 24/7 to do so. I'm actually pleased with parts of the system that I've seen a little bit further to the west of here is in good shape. At FPL, we did not lose one single transmission tower, so that is critical. The backbone is up and operational. We are now in the process of getting the distribution system back up and the substations that had flying debris go into them cleared out so we can get them back online. There are sections of our territory close to the beach along the Barrier Islands that will require rebuilding. There's some destructive areas that simply cannot be repaired, and they'll have to be rebuilt. Unfortunately, there are also homes and businesses that will simply not be able to safely take the power once it's ready. But the 20,000 plus men and women who are already here are staging and getting out in the field currently. They will work 24/7 until we get the lights back on. Again, as the governor said, not our first rodeo, but every storm is also different and always poses different challenges. But appreciate all the support from the state. Governor, thank you. From local law enforcement as well, the National Guard. This is a team sport and a team effort, and we're going to all work together until we get Florida back up on her feet. feet, and where we all want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. 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 T And when they're when FPL and the other companies have crews in, the extent to which that infrastructure has remained is just critical, because it's a lot easier for them to reconnect an existing system than to have to rebuild it. So to see some of that was able to withstand is encouraging. It's also just a testament. I mean, some of these folks put money into the resilience of the infrastructure, and this is like the ultimate test. I mean, you got a hurricane that's a massive hurricane coming in at 155 miles an hour, producing this type of storm surge, dumping rain, causing flooding. If you can make it through that, then you probably did it pretty good. And so this is a 24/7 effort to stabilize and to restore. And so we're going to do whatever we can to assist with that effort. And so I'm happy to take a few questions.
Governor, in our area, Sanibel Island, Fort Myers Beach, the images are devastating. And we know that from our local agencies that there have been confirmed deaths. We don't know exactly how many. What have you heard from the local agencies about the scope of the tragedy in that sense?
Well, Sanibel is destruction. For those of you who haven't been, it's a beautiful place, really neat community, and it got hit with really biblical storm surge, and it washed away roads, it washed away structures that were not new and could withstand that. There have been a number of people that have been identified and brought off the island safely, and those efforts are ongoing. Not only with the Coast Guard has been involved with that, our USAR teams, and as well as local law enforcement. I think most people have seen the images of the bridge, the causeway going out to Sanibel, where you have destruction of that. And that's something that we obviously will rebuild, but that's not something that will happen overnight. And so most of what's being done to assist is air operations, since you can't get there on the ground. I think Kevin will probably have more boats head over there as well. But the important thing is I was able to speak to the mayor this morning, and she and her key staff did evacuate, and so they've been operating off more of the mainland in Lee County. And many people did leave Sanibel, and they did heed the call, which is good. Obviously, I think it's a very seasonal community. We're not quite in the high season yet, but I think she made the point, hey, it's Florida. More people want to be here year-round now, so you do have a contingent of people that stay there over the summer. So that's going to require a lot of effort to get that back, because they took a huge wallop. And it's interesting. I mean, you can look in a span of like 40, 50 miles, some places that got the storm surge versus some other barrier islands, much less. And that's just kind of the way some of this goes. But those were really difficult images to see, especially just given that's a place that I've been fortunate enough to go out and have some friends and do events there in the past, and really a great part of the Southwest Florida community. But we're committed to restoring the infrastructure as needed. That is not going to be an overnight task. That is going to be something that is going to require a lot of love and care. It's going to require a lot of resources, but we're going to do it because we understand how important it is.
Governor, piggybacking off of that, Governor, what are some of the federal and state funds available to make that happen, to kind of speed this up?
Well, in terms of infrastructure, I think, Kevin and we also have Gracia Check from FEMA, who's here. We've gotten approved for, 30 days they approved us?
30 days on Category B and A at 100%.
Okay, and that's more of like the immediate...
So that's on the public assistance side, but this particular county is under an individual assistance major disaster declaration, so we will set up the disaster recovery centers, and we'll have people be able to register for that.
So that's on an individual basis, and so somebody loses their house and they may need temporary assistance, a hotel accommodation, something like that, they're going to be able to do. Jimmy Petronas, who's here, our CFO, as part of those recovery centers, they're going to have insurance villages. If you look at what Lee County had to deal with, these are massive flood events. And so most of these people who have mortgages and they're in a flood zone probably had to have flood insurance. So they're going to have people that could help with those flood claims. You also have wind damage with the traditional homeowners insurance policy. So that's going to be important. In terms of the overall infrastructure, obviously we'll seek federal support for that, but we're also, Florida, we're well positioned financially right now to get through this. We have have the largest budget surplus we've ever had. We've worked very hard, of course, to keep the economy open and make this a state people wanted to be in. And so we're seeing historic reserves, even as we've continued to break records with the revenue coming in with no income tax and low taxes. They revised it in August saying, okay, Florida's getting more revenue. And then in September, we're like $300 million over what they estimated. So we have put an emphasis on infrastructure, partially because the state is growing, but we understand in a situation like this. We had a bridge knocked out with Hurricane Sally because you had a barge that was left loose and it ran to the bridge. So we were able to fix that, but it's not something that happens overnight. So to me, I think the more issue is, we'll have resources between federal and state and local. I'm pretty confident that, but it's okay. This is an island that you're not going to be able to access by car until that is done. And so what's going to be the plan to do? And that's just going to be something we're going to consult with the local leaders at the city level and at the county level to try to figure out what the best is. But when you deal with these things, you stabilize, you provide the help with people, but you want to get back to some semblance of normalcy as quickly as possible. And it's going to be harder in some areas than others. But I want to, let's work on Sanibel and let's bring it back to where it was as soon as we can.
Governor, for properties that were totally wiped out, how should it be determined if flood insurance or wind coverage should be appropriate, and how was that determined during Mexico Beach?
Well, so that's kind of an age-old thing on these storms. I mean, you'll have disputes because obviously if you have both policies and you file a flood claim, the flood is going to want you to file the wind claim. The wind is going to want you to file the flood claim. What I would say is when you have surge that's 10, 14 feet, when you have 6 feet of water in somebody's home, to me, that's a flood claim. And it doesn't mean that they may not have also suffered wind damage, because as we know, it was a really significant thing. But wind alone is not going to cause the 6 feet of water. I mean, that's a flood event. And it's not just in the barrier islands, which of course had a lot. You go in some of the places in Lee County, that are close to the river and some of these inlets, you had massive rising waters. And so that's just something we do. I mean, that's what was happening with some of the folks who did not do the evacuation. They were hunkering down, and their homes, I think, were totally fine to handle even a really strong wind event. The problem is if the water is rising, you're in your living room, it's a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, they're the ones that were calling saying, hey, this is a big problem, and of course it is. So I think at the end of the day, in Lee County, I think most of the claims are going to be flood claims. I think in Charlotte, maybe the mix will be a little bit different because I did see, some wind damage, and I think that those claims would be appropriate. But clearly, when you're in those flood areas and you have the water rising like that into your living room, that is a flood.
Governor, speaking to people today about the insurance, they worry, sometimes, the insurance companies will shuffle their feet on a normal stance, on a normal situation. Now we have this where everyone's going to be flooding the insurance companies. What's your message to those people who might be worried that the insurance companies might not be acting fast enough?
Well, Jimmy, where's Jimmy at? Yeah, so, and I'll let him say, but part of the disaster recovery are these insurance villages. He's done a great job of leading. He's getting the carriers all together. They're going to have a footprint in all these affected counties. People are going to be able to go and they're going to file claims. There's already been things done with our insurance regulation agency. Go back 10 days, none of those cancellations are valid, and you can't cancel going forward for another couple of months. So there's already actions being taken. But I'll let Jimmy come up and do that. And look, at the end of the day, we've had a lot of issues with property insurance, but a lot of that is because of lawsuits and a lot of things that don't focus on the core business. This is the core business of paying these claims, and we understand the time is of the essence.
Thanks, Governor.
Yep.
So we've got a preliminary site set up. We'll make sure it's coordinated with Kevin Guthrie's team in the county, but we'll probably pick a large spot. Initially, insurance carriers will come in. We'll probably have somewhere between 20 and 25 carriers come in. They'll probably set up in RVs, and they will start writing checks initially. That will be living expense money. This will be the dollars just to help people go find a place to live, sustenance dollars. Then you'll be signed up where adjusters will come and inspect the damage. Now, here's the most important thing I need you to take away from this conversation is the predators that are going to come up, that are going to initially try to sign up construction management contracts, public adjusters. they're going to come in like a bunch of locusts, and they're going to try to hit the neighborhoods, and people are vulnerable right now. They're going to look for a solution, and their solution is always going to be important, but that solution is not going to be knocking on the door every time. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. So please, that first phone call that you're going to make needs to be to either your agent, your carrier, or to my office at 1-877-MY-FLCFO. If one of the first 3 phone calls you make in your house in order to get insurance claim solved is to one of those 3s, there's almost zero chance you can be taken advantage of. But Panama City was my hometown. I lived through Hurricane Michael. We did 12 insurance villages there over a year span. So we're going to be here bringing the carriers back, and they will write checks on site, okay? But when you start complicating the claim because you've allowed predators to get involved with your claim, you're going to drag it out. So the best solution is between you, your carrier, and us. The more people you bring into it, the harder it's going to be to get a settlement that's going to be fair for everybody. And look, at the end of the day, if your carrier doesn't want to work with you, that's when you'll call my office and we'll take them to task.
And I think and what I've asked Jimmy to do is also, have people with assistance for the National Flood Insurance Program claims. They obviously have their homeowners policy. Many people have both, but I think the issue is that some people live in areas where they're told you don't need flood, and so they don't do it. Well, now they may be in a situation where that is so. But bottom line is, those who have the flood insurance, we want them to be able to file those claims. Take pictures of the damage of your home and have those so that you can present those, and so you can get paid quicker. If you took pictures of the water line, if you have 4 feet of water, you took pictures, bring that with you. If the water's gone down but you see where the line was, take pictures and document that so that you can go in, present it, and there's not going to be any questions. But Jimmy made a good point. You start signing up, some of these people will swoop in and they'll want you to sign this stuff. It just hasn't worked out well in the past in Florida. Unfortunately, when you have disasters, there's some people that want to prey on people when they're in vulnerable situations, and we do not want that. The other thing I would also say, just from looking at some of the images that we've seen on TV, there's going to be a lot of automobile insurance claims potentially. I could tell you, my wife, we lost a car in Irma, and thank God we had USAA, because they literally cut us a check very quickly. So hopefully all the auto insurance are going to be able to do that. But we literally we're seeing cars washed away, cars totally submerged, and so we understand that people are going to need to be able to get that claim. But when we did it with Irma, we got the check within like a week. They came out, they did it, they gave us the check, and honestly, it's not like losing a car only is like the worst thing in the world. I mean, we were fine, but I mean, to be able to have that, you know what you have to do. You need to buy a new car. You need to do so. I appreciate what Jimmy's doing. I think it's important to get the carriers in to let people go, make these claims, and let's get these things processed as quickly as possible. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Governor Ron DeSantis there surveying the damage in Charlotte County after Hurricane Ian made landfall as a strong Category 4 yesterday. He called the damage on Sanibel Island it hit with biblical storm surge, so just devastating down there.
A lot of focus on Seminole Island, and also a lot of focus on the pre-staged resources, and a lot of praise for that. Folks coming from all over the country to assist. More than 42,000 were here at landfall, so indeed the governor's office praising that action for its response.
Still a lot of work to be done, though. Florida Power and Light, they were there as well, saying that 1.2 million customers still without power. And some of the destruction, especially on the barrier island there, is just so devastating. They can't rebuild it. They're going to have to build completely new infrastructure to provide those kind of utilities out there in Sanibel Island.
Absolutely. And more than 700,000 customers, they got their power restored already. So that's promising, and especially, honestly, for a lot of us, too, who came to work without power.
Right.
Is it going to be? We don't know. So it's just fair.
20,000 crews out there right now with FP&L trying to get things back to normal, and obviously it's going to take some time to do that.
Absolutely. So we do want to continue, Jerry, our team coverage. And Greg Pallone, he has been in Kissimmee all day long, along with John Chabon, our photographer. So Greg, what's going on out there? Any improvements at all?
None whatsoever, Allison. The rain continues to come down, and we want to give you an indication of the massive amount of rain that Ian brought to this area and continues to bring to this area. When we're talking about floodwaters, we're talking about the movement of water through this area. Our last time we talked to you, last hour, was over near Central, where that area was inundated. It is inundated. It's almost like a lake. Well, all of that water has to go somewhere, and here we are at that somewhere. We are downstream through one of the canals that that water is coming down into. If you look at this canal, there's railroad tracks on it. Those railroad tracks are now suspended in the air. We have a washout because of the inundation of all of this water that has come through this area and continues to come through this area. Trains cannot operate on these tracks right now. Our own John Chabon, who you mentioned a moment ago, looked it up. This is an Amtrak and a Sunrail line. So if any of those officials are listening to us right now, they need to bring attention to these tracks right here, because this is a massive washout and the tracks are suspended in the air as this water continues to come through. Just a huge hole underneath the tracks after all of this rain and flooding has come.